Hi, welcome back, and as promised, I'm gonna be doing my I'm gonna Hi, welcome back, and as promised, I'm going to be showing how I do my simple personal budgeting and expense tracker using Google Sheet. I know some of you might be wondering why we're not using Excel, because Excel it's more complex, it has a lot of calculations that we can use, and it's more interactive, and it's Microsoft Excel. So what's not to love? Now, I know that that's the case, but not all of us can afford a Microsoft account, and Google Sheets actually is number one. It's free. It's absolutely free. It's in the cloud. It doesn't take up a storage space on your computer or even your Google Drive. So it's for me, it's just very versatile and just very budget friendly. So I'm opting to use Google Sheets instead of Excel, although Excel is obviously it's Excel. If you're not really comfortable of using Google Sheets, then I suggest looking for other methods on doing your own. But for me, personally, it's just Google Sheets is just works. It works best for me. So yeah, that's it. That's just my disclaimer for this one. And let's go ahead and start making our personal budgeting and expense tracker. First thing we need to do is open up the blank spreadsheet. So the first sheet that we're working on is the logs tab. So we're just gonna rename this logs first, and then just gonna call this budget tracking 2024. So first we need to put in the date, and then description, and then category, amount, notes, and then month. I'm just gonna do a little bit of formatting because I just like formatting. So I use the model, and then for if there's actually a formula for the month, because this is important when we start to when we start to separate or segregate the reports based on the month and sum it all for the month of your expense. The formula here is if your date is equal 0, then this one should be blank, because if we put in the formula here without using this if function, it will make an error. So I would just like to use the if function. If the amount or if the date is blank, then it's not gonna affect the month. However, if it's filled out, then the formula we will enter will be used. And then this is the formula, month of the A2, and then that's it. And then I'll just copy this over until I don't really have a technique on copying this until the very last cell, so I'm just gonna drag it until the very end. Okay, I should stop. Okay, so that's 667. Buti na lang hindi naging 666. The formula of the month is actually relevant when we try to segregate, like I said, the cost later. So we're just gonna keep it that way, and this is so far. This is all you need on your logs tab so far. So I'm just gonna drink my vitamins. So for clarification, I'm gonna call the sheet tab. So they kind of look like tabs anyway. So I'm just gonna rename this cash flow. And then here we'll call this cash flow tracking. Then we have cash on hand. So here, let's say you have a coin purse. Then you also have a wallet, and then you have cash in bank. Probably have your savings account, current or checking account, other wallets like Gcash and Maya. And then we have our loans and credit cards. We have to separate like the specific accounts compared to like their description or like their classifications. It should be on different columns. So like this one, cash on hand, cash in bank, other wallets, and loans and credits should be on column A, and then, or like the specific accounts will be on column B. So let's say you have your first credit card, you also have a second credit card, and then like me, you have a third credit card, and then you have loan 1 and loan 2. Call these accounts, and then current balance, initial balance. I really need glasses because I was not able to read that. January, February. Select both of these so Google will know what you mean. Drag it over until P, so you'll have until December. And then this is very important. Like I said, to match the ones that we have in logs, we should name, or we should number our month accordingly. So for January, it's 1, February, it's 2, and then it's numbered based on the month. This is very important when we extract the logs, or when we put in the sum of the logs to this sheet. For beautification purposes, I'm just gonna hide this and just take note that the numbers are under the months. So to hide this, I'm just gonna color them white. So they're hidden. I'm just gonna format the fonts and make some things bold just so to highlight them and just make the report more cohesive to the eyes, okay? We have now the cash flow tracking. One of the formulas that I use here is the status. So if I have more cash or other wallets compared to my loans or credit card, then it means I'm okay. Like my cash flow is okay. Now if it's not, then I am in debt. To do that formula, I'm just gonna put in status here, and then the formula for that will be if the sum of all my cash, including the wallets, coin purse, and all that, if the sum of that minus my liabilities, which are the credit cards and all that, and I'm just gonna extend it to one portion here just in case I need to add more, is more than 1,000. Like I said, you can use 0 for this or 100, but I would just like to make sure I have like 1,000 safe in cash. So what this means is if I have enough cash, my money is like 1,000 more than my liabilities, then I'm okay. But if I only have less than 1,000, then I am in debt. You can put in 0 here. It's greater than 1, and that's fine. That just means that you're not saving, you're zero based. I just would like to keep myself, or I would just like to remind myself na I have to save at least 1,000, or like I have to have at least 1,000 on somewhere, so I know na I'm okay, na I'm not in debt. So that's just me. You can put in 1, you can put in 100, or you can put in 1,000, and that's okay. So if whatever cash you have is more than your loans, credit cards, then you are okay. And if not, you are in debt. So that's what this formula means. I am in debt apparently because 0 minus 0 is less than 1,000. So if we put in 500 here, I'm still gonna be in debt. If we put in 999, I'm still gonna be in debt. However, if we put in 1,000, I'm still in debt. I'm still in debt, but if we put in 1,001, I'm okay. So that's the reason, that's the formula. And then again, for beautification purposes, I'm just gonna format this. That's the first formula that we have here. We will now proceed to the next tab, which is the expenses tab. Now this is very important because we need to do these first, the cash flow tab and the expenses tab, so that our logs tab will be completed. So this one is called expense tracker. Let's go in category here, income, wages, other income. You have one, and then total income. And then underneath is the monthly expenses. Mother, why did I type that? And then we have grocery, fare, gas, food, personal, phone or internet, entertainment, insurance, rent, and then pets. Again, underneath you have savings. As you can see, I did not total the monthly expenses. It's more of a moral purposes, like the word moral. I don't like looking at my expenses and it being like, oh, that's how much I spent for the month, because it doesn't boost my morale. Okay, I look at total income and that will boost my morale, but if I total all the expenses, then I'm just gonna be wrecked. For me, it's really very important to like know what you want to look at versus what you don't want to look at, and then take them off your list so it boosts your morale. That's just my reasoning why I did not put the total income the total expenses for the month. Hope that clears out. Next tab are the months again, and then again, like the previous tab, cash flow, we also put in the corresponding number for the month. So December, and then again hide them, and then we'll fill this out later. The formulas will come in later. I'm just gonna do the formatting. For now, let's leave expense tracker. The formulas will come in later. Let's go back to logs, and then we will make sure na everything in this report will sync simultaneously. I forgot something here. It's called mode of payment. So let's start with the data validation for the mode of payment. Let's click on row E and then press Control on your keyboard, then the first one, so it exempts like cell E1. Click data and then data validation, and then add row here, and then apply to E2 until E1000. And then for the criteria, click drop down from a range, click this one, and then click cash flow, and then click everything under accounts, so from coin purse until the last, but I'm just gonna scooch it over until 25 kasi baka may i-add pa ako as well. So I'll just click on OK here. Go back to logs, and now it will say whatever mode of payments or whatever accounts that we have. However, I don't kind of like this chip thingy, so I'm just gonna click advanced options and then click arrow. So it's simpler, it's cleaner, it's just, I don't know, for me it's just cleaner. And then if the data is invalid, I'll just select show a warning instead of rejecting the input. There's that. Do it again for the category. Control on your keyboard and then click the first line, and then add rule. For the criteria, click drop down from a range, click the select data range here, and then go to expenses, and then for category, anything underneath the category here, and then just put in a little bit of allowance if I need to add more. Then click OK. Go back to logs just to check if it did worked. Again, for beautification purposes or for it to be more simple, I'll just select show a warning and then arrow. All of the category are now synced, and then all of the mode of payments will now sync. So if we test that out, if we add, like, let's say I insert one row above, I open another savings account, savings 2. It will now show up in logs, savings 2. It has less room for error, so that's why I like doing this. To just recap, everything in our logs tab is now complete. All our categories here synced, and then all our mode of payments here also synced from the cash flow tab. And then we also have the formula here for the month. Let's now proceed with the calculation for the cash flow. Now let's start off with the current balances, which is just the sums of everything. So this is just sum of D until P, and then copy this. Obviously, for the initial balance, you've probably not started your budget tracking since last year. or if you've just been starting your budget tracking, then you probably have your cash on hand already. Long story short, this is where you put all your initial balance before you started with your budget tracking. Let's start with the calculation of your monthly expenditure or your monthly cash flow. First formula is sum ifs. Sum ifs kasi marami. Go back to logs and then click the whole, because this is where the column where all our amounts are. Click that and then comma. So the first criteria for the if is if the month is January. So how do we do that? Let's click on month here, comma, and then it should match. Go back to cash flow, and then it should match the number that we put in here, comma. And then since this is sum ifs, go back to logs, and then if the mode of payment, comma, is the account here, coin purse. So that is the formula for getting the amounts that is under January and using your coin purse. For example, let's do like January 1 testing and then 5,000. Mode of payment is, we use the formula, the mode of payment and the month. Now let's go to cash flow and the 5,000 is there. So if the logs, like say for example, today is March, so 1/3, again testing, and it's 2,000 for coin purse. If you go to cash flow, it's not gonna calculate that because even though we used coin purse for the account, the month is not the same as the month here, so it will not show up here. That's just one of the beauties of using this formula. It's so precise, so it calculates for the specific month of that specific account. Before we copy this over to the whole month of December, we should take note na we are actually logging expenses. So this is where the confusion starts, okay? Bear with me, you will just be confused for probably twice a month for this. Or when we log expenses, it's actually a positive number, when in reality, expenses should be a negative number to your cash. When you buy something worth 500, nababawasan ka ng 500. You are not gaining 500, whereas this one has like a positive number to it. What we're gonna do is, since we're logging expenses, we should log them, or we should sum all of them as a negative amount. So in your cash flow, before you copy them over, you should put in a negative sign here in sum ifs. I'll show you in a minute so it makes sense. We'll just put negative here. We will also lock some of the data here. So to lock that, press F4. Make sure that there's a $sign on both the D. And then again, click logs G, again F4, logs E, F4. So for E3, which is the number under January, we will only lock the row, so the column will kind of move. Just press F4 twice. For your account, it should be locked only on your column. So now, if we copy this over, there are things that will move and there are things that will not. For example, let's copy until December. Now the March expense will show up because the movement was, it copied over the column for the March because we didn't lock it. I'm here to explain the locking of the columns and the rows. So locking the rows, also known as the numbers, lets us move whatever we copied from one column to the other. And then locking the columns, also known as the letters, lets us move the rows if we drag them down. So the purpose of this is that if we copy the formula from anywhere, it will have that perfect angle of matching the correct month at the top and the correct account on the left, regardless where you are in the spreadsheet. So now let's move over to the loans and credit cards. Now, loans and credit cards are not savings account, or they are not cash accounts. So it means kung gagamitin mo yung credit card mo to buy something, you are gonna add expense. You are not gonna add like money if you use your credit card. This actually means na if you are adding more expense to your credit card, it means na your loans or your credit card balance will increase. If we use the same formula but remove the negative, this is the correct formula for the credit cards. let's put in an example for each and every one here. And then for your credit card, currently you have an outstanding balance of 7.5 for your first credit card. Based on these amounts, you're still okay. Like, look at the sum here. You have 46,450 compared to your credit card loans and balances of only 23,599. Let's set an example. So let's put this coin purse to savings. Then probably this one is from the current. Excuse me, I'm reading again. You bought something out from your credit card of 500. And then again, you bought another 1,500 on your credit card too. What this does is, on your cash flow, I've just reformatted this one to make it more understandable. So since your initial balance on your savings account is 6,000 and you've paid off something for 5,000, your current balance will now just be 11,000, which obviously it makes sense. However, for your credit cards here and here, you currently have a 7,500 payable to your credit card, and then you use your credit card for something else. Now your current balance, or it's not your credit limit, it's what you need to pay for your credit card, is now 8,000. And then for your second credit card, since you bought something for 1,500, your current balance for your second credit card will now be 10,000. So this cash flow will just let you know it will not let you know how much you need to spend for your credit card or what's left for your credit card. It will tell you how much you owe for your credit card now, and that makes you more financially aware of your spending. So there's that. So that's part one of how I do my budget tracking. It's very simple. Like I said, it's simple, it's personal, it's just straightforward. And if you think this is complicated, stay tuned for part 2. I'll explain more of that there. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for part 2, which will be up here if it's now available, or in the description if it's not. So thank you, bye.